Tasha Cobbs Leonard has long been a powerhouse in the world of gospel music. Her voice ringing out with such intensity that it could fill even the largest halls with emotion. People were drawn to her not just because of her incredible vocal talent, but because her songs seemed to reach right into the soul, as though she were channeling something pure and divine. She became famous quickly, her name recognized everywhere from small churches to gigantic concert venues. Yet, beneath all the applause and worship, there was always an undercurrent of feeling that maybe there was something more to her story, something unspoken woven into the fabric of her music. Listeners picked up on it, that hint of pain in her tone, the vulnerability in her performances. They wondered, had she suffered in ways no one knew? Was all that strength just a mask? Or was it real? These quiet questions lingered for years, with fans and followers guessing at what might be hidden beneath her confident exterior. As her fame grew, so did the speculation. Social media buzzed with theories and whispers, people trying to piece together what might be going on behind her radiant smile and powerful stage presence. Then, unexpectedly, everything shifted. In a moment that caught many off guard, her husband Kenneth Leonard finally broke his silence. His words didn't just confirm people's suspicions. They brought a new clarity, shining a light on the private challenges Tasha had faced for so long, long before the public knew her name. Tasha was just a young girl in a small Georgia town. Her father's role as a pastor meant that church was a second home to her. She was known as the joyful child with a voice that stood out, someone everyone believed was destined for something special. But even in those early years, Tasha was wrestling with feelings she didn't fully understand. Sometimes she felt overwhelmed by sadness, anxiety would creep in, and there were long, silent nights where she couldn't explain what was happening in her heart. Despite being surrounded by people her church community, her family, she often felt isolated in her mind. As she moved into her teenage years, she led worship services with remarkable confidence and energy, but inside she was often filled with doubt and emptiness. Her bright smile became a shield, even from those closest to her. People would speak words of encouragement over her, telling her she was special, that her life would change the world, and she desperately wanted to believe it. But she couldn't shake a growing fear that maybe she wasn't as strong as everyone thought. This fear led Tasha to develop a habit that would follow her for years. She learned to pretend. No matter how much she was struggling, she became skilled at acting like everything was okay. The battles she fought weren't visible. They were deep, emotional, spiritual, hidden away from the eyes of those around her. Like many who grew up in church, she was taught to deal with pain by praying, by singing, by shouting praise. It was never about talking through the pain, just surviving it. So she did what she knew. She sang louder, prayed harder, pushed herself further. Outwardly, her voice grew stronger and her ministry grew. But her heart was weakening under the weight of all that unspoken pain. This hidden struggle became the unseen bedrock of the powerful ministry the world would eventually see, but it exacted a heavy personal toll. When Tasha's music began to reach national audiences, everything changed. Her breakout song, "Break Every Chain," wasn't just a hit, became a spiritual rallying cry, sung in churches everywhere. With such widespread acclaim came a new kind of pressure. People didn't just want good music from her. They wanted her to be perfect. Suddenly, she was living her dream, but the reality was far more complex. Behind the curtain of sold-out concerts and thunderous applause, she was fighting a private battle that few could imagine: severe depression. The more she smiled for the crowds, the more she wept in private. Holding herself together for everyone else became exhausting. She didn't feel like she could talk about the depression, especially in church circles where mental health was still a taboo subject, misunderstood or ignored. The pressure to be strong all the time was suffocating, and slowly she began to lose touch with who she really was. She felt like an actor playing a part, wearing a mask that no longer fit. In the midst of all this chaos, There was one person who stood by her, steady and unchanging Kenneth Leonard. He wasn't just her husband, he was her anchor, a quiet strength in the turbulent storm of her life. Long before the public caught a glimpse of Tasha's struggles, Kenneth had seen everything. He noticed the nights when she couldn't sleep, the blank stares even during joyful moments, the heavy silence she carried like a burden. He didn't always have the right words, but he was there. When she couldn't pray, he prayed for her. When she needed silence, he sat with her without expecting conversation. He gently reminded her of her value when she forgot it herself. Kenneth never sought the limelight, but behind every performance, every award, he was the one providing unseen support, covering her in love and prayer. In interviews, his answers were brief and supportive, never drawing attention to himself. Only now is the world beginning to appreciate just how deep his influence ran. He loved Tasha, not just as the celebrated gospel singer, but as the woman who was broken, tired, and healing. That kind of unconditional love is rare. One night, when everything felt like too much, Kenneth didn't try to solve her problems or offer spiritual cliches. He just sat next to her on the floor and cried with her. There was no performance, no pretending, just raw honesty. That night marked a turning point. It wasn't that her pain instantly disappeared, but it was the first time she admitted how badly she was hurting. The truth, hidden from the public, was finally spoken between them. It was painful and vulnerable, but it was also the beginning of real healing. The world never saw this side of Tasha. They only saw the accolades and the success, not the cost behind it. Kenneth saw everything, and he stayed. After that night, Tasha made a decision that caught many by surprise. She stepped back. She canceled some appearances, released herself from certain obligations, and chose silence over the spotlight. She wasn't abandoning her calling, but she was choosing to survive. With Kenneth by her side, she started therapy, began journaling, and allowed herself to be human for the first time, instead of just living up to the expectations of others. For the first time, she put her emotional and mental well-being above public opinion. It was a tough choice, and not everyone understood. Critics muttered. Fans speculated. But behind the scenes, a quiet transformation was happening. Tasha was healing, progress didn't happen overnight, and the path wasn't straight, but it was real. Each honest conversation, each tearful prayer, each small step forward mattered. And Kenneth was there, not trying to fix her, not pushing her, just being present. That simple, steadfast presence became the new foundation of their life together. Over time, Tasha began to reemerge, but not as the flawless gospel superstar people had come to expect. She came back as someone whole, honest, and deeply aware of God's grace. Her music changed too. Her voice remained strong, but now it carried new layers of depth and authenticity. Her songs weren't just triumphant proclamations, stories of struggle and reminders that, even in the darkest moments, grace can be found. She spoke more openly about her journey with mental health, about faith, and about what it really means to live with emotional wounds. People listened in a new way. They didn't just admire her singing, they trusted her story. She had lived the pain she sang about. Kenneth supported her openness, encouraging her to take risks and be vulnerable even when it felt scary. Together, they became advocates for healing in places where silence had been the norm for too long. Their marriage, once tested in secret, became a testament to resilience and love. In a recent interview, Kenneth finally shared his side of the story. He had always protected Tasha's privacy, but now he felt it was time to speak, not to get attention, but to help others. He admitted what many had long suspected. Tasha had been hurting. She'd struggled in private, and there were times when she almost gave up. His account was not dramatic, just honest. He described the pressure, the pain, and the private moments that shaped their journey. But above all, he stressed the power of love, faith, and vulnerability. That rawness, people. Heard in Tasha's music was real, he said. But even more real was her strength, not the kind that performs, but the kind that endures. Kenneth's openness didn't expose Tasha. It set her free. It allowed people to see the full truth, not just the public persona. In doing so, he reminded everyone that even the strongest need support. That faith doesn't mean you never feel broken, and that real love doesn't rescue, it stands by your side. The response was overwhelming. Fans flooded social media with messages of support and shared their own stories. Many said Kenneth's honesty gave them the courage to seek help. Pastors started preaching about mental health. Worship leaders opened up about burnout. The impact went far beyond one couple. Tasha and Kenneth hadn't just told their story, they started a movement, making space for healing in places that had ignored it for too long. Today, Tasha stands on a different kind of platform. She still sings, still leads worship, but with a new sense of freedom. Her ministry is about honesty, not perfection. Together, she and Kenneth have launched programs focused on emotional wellness, particularly for those in leadership, creating safe spaces for people to be real, to admit when they're not okay, and to seek healing without shame. Their once hidden story has become a beacon for many. And even though Kenneth never wanted the spotlight, his quiet strength has helped countless others find their own path to healing.